The ANC's National Executive Committee is expected to hold a special meeting tomorrow. Now, the virtual meeting will, of course, discuss the Section 89 panel report submitted to the National Assembly Speaker yesterday. The panel, chaired by retired Justice Sandile Ngcobo, found that President Cyril Ramaphosa may have a case to answer regarding the Phala Phala farm saga. Some ANC members, including Tony Ngeni, presidential hopefuls Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma and Lindiwe Sisulu, have now called on Ramaphosa to step aside. Let's stay with the story and speak to our political reporter, Samkelo Maseko, who joins us live now. Samkele, I'm going to start with something you've just come back from. You were in conversation with Begum Dolo from the ANC in KZN. He says that the president must do the right thing. What is that?
Essentially, he's saying the president must do the right thing in that he must not repeat the history of yesteryear of Nkandla. Essentially saying that the ANC does not have the necessary mantle and the manpower and the political will to go through defending just like they did in defending Nkandla. They can no longer defend Phala Phala, and that the president should do the right thing and that he should resign as the head of state. But the conundrum here, Bongiwe, is the president is neither charged nor is he held between a court of law. So politically, he may be wounded currently and legally wounded, but his strength will be tested in the ANC's NEC to come tomorrow, which will be arguably the biggest test of Cyril Ramaphosa's reign as ANC president since he took over in the NASREC conference in 2017. This NEC will test his true power within the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress. Begum Dolo saying that the president is receiving a number of counsels thus far throughout the course of the day from last night. Some saying that it is negative counseling. It is from selfish ministers whom are looking at their own self-preservation as ministers, as they don't know with the new president, if the president was to resign and the new president to be elected and sworn in, if their jobs as ministers would still be there. So he's essentially saying that it's a catch-22 for the president, as he has to listen to his generals in one hand who are ministers, but also on the other hand, think about the image, the integrity and the stature of the wounded image and the wounded brand of the African National Congress. I suppose then that, could also be read as a hint to the caucus in Parliament to say that we've seen you in the past, closing ranks when such happens. Now, listening to what he's saying then, I suppose one may look at it as a silent message to them as well. Essentially, it's a silent message, but in the historical context of the ANC, when the ANC presidents are faced with troubles, they always do one thing. They close ranks, they solve ranks amongst one another, and they've got one message. One message, multiple voices. This time around, it's no longer that ANC of Nelson Mandela, that ANC of Thabo Mbeki. It's now a multitude of African National Congress split into 3 or 4 organizations in one. But what you are beginning to see is that those whom are against the ANC president have all seemingly come out together and are speaking with one voice, with one message, multiple voices, in essence saying that he should leave and he should step aside and must no longer avail himself for the leadership of the African National Congress come the 55th National Conference in about 13 to 12 days' time. But those who support the ANC president are saying it's way still too early. Go through the various parliamentary processes and then make a determinant, because if he were to back down now as a contender for the ANC presidency, it will totally demobilize those whom support him to be the president of the African National Congress, also thinking about their own selfish preservation going towards the 55th National Conference of the so-called renewals in the African National Congress, who supposedly want to renew the African National Congress. Just today and a few months ago, Kgalema Motlanthe, the former deputy president of the ANC, said, don't look at Kgalema Motlanthe for an interim president, look elsewhere, which essentially boils down to 3 candidates whom are seemingly eyeing that presidency position of the African National Congress. You've got a Paul Mashatile, whom is lurking in the background, whom is looking at being the #1 citizen within the country on the virtue that he may have been or would be elected as deputy president of the African National Congress come December, and should Cyril Ramaphosa trip over Phala Phala, which is seemingly looking like the case, he would seemingly slot in as the #1 citizen within the country. But there is the cat as well, the deputy president David Mabuza,
with whom 13 lives are always
with some people saying this is the opportune moment that he's been waiting for. But also a dark horse which many people are not speaking about, whom at some point was touted as a possible deputy president in Nasrec in 2017, a former Secretary General of the ANC, a former General Secretary of the NUM, current Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy, Gwede Mantashe. That would be an interesting case to see going forward. So
I suppose, in other words, Samkele, what you're saying is that we are not sleeping in Nasrec during the conference. It will be 24 hours. But thank you so much for coming in. Do appreciate it. And we are, of course, going to be monitoring quite a number of stories through, of course, your eyes, Samkele. And thank you so much for, bringing us in the picture then.